This is the sound of a life changing forever. November 14th, 2019, 11:47 p.m. A 24-hour diner in Busan's Gangnam district. A cup of coffee, $3.50. In exactly 13 minutes, this diner will be empty except for two people. In 6 months, one of them will be facing a murder charge. In 1 year, the other will own $47 million in assets and be responsible for bringing down the most powerful crime family in Korea. Her name is Russo Johnson. She was a waitress who couldn't afford to fix her broken heater. He was Kang Min-jun, the heir to an empire built on blood and secrets. This is the true story of how a cup of coffee started a war, how a woman who'd been invisible her entire life became impossible to ignore, and how love doesn't save anyone, it just shows you who you really are. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand how this ends, you need to know how it begins. With rain, with loneliness, and with two people who had absolutely nothing to lose. Busan, South Korea, November 2019. A city where you can buy a $10,000 watch at 3 a.m. and step over a homeless man on your way out of the store. Where ancient tradition collides with ruthless capitalism, and everyone is either climbing the ladder or being crushed beneath it. Russo Johnson didn't fit anywhere on that ladder. 26 years old, black, American, broke. In a city that had very specific ideas about who belonged and who didn't, Russo was nobody. Worse than nobody. She was foreign, other, invisible. But let me tell you how she got there, because it matters. Russo grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. Middle-class family, good schools. She became a high school English teacher at 22, filled with all the idealism that gets beaten out of you by year 2. She wanted to inspire kids, change lives, make a difference. Instead, she spent her days breaking up fights, filling out paperwork, and watching teenagers scroll through phones while she tried to explain Shakespeare. By 23, she was drowning in student loans and suffocating under the weight of everyone's expectations. Her mother wanted her to be respectable. Her friends wanted her to be relatable. Her principal wanted her to be compliant. Russo wanted to disappear. So she did. She saw an ad online. Native English teachers needed in South Korea. Good pay, housing included. A chance to start over somewhere nobody knew her name or her failures. She bought a one-way ticket with her last paycheck. Didn't tell anyone until she was already on the plane. Just left. The teaching job was in a private academy in Busan. Small classes, wealthy students, decent money. For 3 months, Russo thought she'd finally found somewhere she could breathe. Then she got the call that would reshape her entire world. Her mother, Diane, had suffered a massive stroke, paralyzed on her left side, couldn't speak, couldn't walk, couldn't recognize her own daughter on the video call that the nurse held up to her bedside. The medical bills started at $60,000, and they didn't stop climbing. Russo's teaching salary was decent for Busan, but after rent, food, and basic expenses, she was sending home maybe $300 a month. Her mother needed $3,000 a week. The math was simple, brutal but simple. Russo needed more money, immediately. She picked up a second job, then a third, then dropped the teaching job entirely and started working at the diner. Mrs. Kang, the owner, was 73 and desperately alone. Her daughter had emigrated to America. Her son had died in a car accident 5 years earlier. She needed help running the 24-hour diner, and she didn't care that Russo was black or foreign or desperate. She just needed someone who would show up. Russo showed up every single day. 16-hour shifts, 7 days a week, no holidays, no breaks. She sent every spare dollar to Atlanta, to the rehabilitation center where her mother slowly, painfully learned to speak again, one syllable at a time. The other waitresses quit within months. They couldn't handle the hours, the late-night drunks who grabbed at them, the way Mrs. Kang's pain from arthritis made her mean, snapping about every small mistake. But Russo stayed because she'd learned something important. When you hit rock bottom, you keep digging, you keep going, because stopping means dying, and Russo wasn't ready to die yet. She'd become a ghost, the foreign girl who poured coffee and took orders and existed in the background of other people's lives. Customers saw her the way you see a vending machine, functional, forgettable, there when you need it. The loneliness was crushing. Busan is a city of 10 million people, and Russo had never felt more alone. She didn't speak Korean well enough to make real friends. She was too exhausted for a social life, too broke for hobbies, too foreign to ever really belong. But loneliness sharpens your senses. When you're invisible, you see everything everyone else misses. Russo watched, learned, understood. She knew which customers were having affairs, which ones were running from debt collectors, which ones worked for the gang that controlled protection money in the neighborhood. Every Tuesday and Friday, 3 men in expensive suits came in at 11 p.m. They sat in the back booth, spoke in low voices about shipments and problems and people who needed to be handled. Russo kept their coffee cups full and her mouth shut. She knew the rules of survival in someone else's city. Mind your business, keep your head down, blend into the wallpaper. For 699 days, Russo followed those rules perfectly. On day 700, November 14th, 2019, at exactly 11:47 p.m., those rules shattered, and nothing was ever the same again. November 14th was supposed to be a quiet night. The rain was keeping people home. Russo had made $82 in tips all day, barely enough to cover her overdue electricity bill. Mrs. Kang had left at 9 p.m., trusting Russo to close alone. The diner had been empty for 2 hours. Russo was wiping down the counter for the 3rd time, trying to decide if she could break protocol just this once and close an hour early. Then the door opened, and the world held its breath. 4 men walked in. No, 4 men appeared. That's what it felt like they'd manifested from the rain itself. The first thing Russo noticed was the silence, not from the men, from outside. The rain seemed to quiet, the traffic noise faded, even the fluorescent lights seemed to dim, like the city itself was making space for these people. The second thing she noticed was how they moved, synchronized, professional. 3 of them immediately took positions, one by the door, one by the window, one near the kitchen, blocking exits, creating a perimeter. The 4th man walked directly to the counter. That's when Russo saw his face. Kang Min-jun. She recognized him immediately. Not from meeting him, from the news. 3 months earlier, there'd been a massive trial, multiple murders, money laundering, drug trafficking, human trafficking, the kind of charges that should end with life sentences. Instead, the case collapsed. Witnesses recanted, evidence disappeared. The lead prosecutor died in what was ruled a suicide, even though she was left-handed and shot herself with her right hand, even though her fingers had been broken first. The Kang family walked free, and in every photo from the courthouse steps, there was Kang Min-jun, 32 years old, devastatingly handsome, smiling like a man who knew he was untouchable. Now he was sitting at her counter. Now he was looking at her with eyes like winter, cold, clear, and absolutely unreadable. Russo's first thought, I'm gonna die here. Her second thought, I wonder if anyone will even notice I'm gone. But what she said out loud was different, because Russo had learned something in 26 years of being underestimated, dismissed, and invisible. Predators smell fear, and she wouldn't give him the satisfaction. She picked up the coffee pot, kept her hands steady, met his eyes. Coffee? One word, calm voice, no trembling. Kang Min-jun didn't answer immediately. He studied her face like she was a code he was trying to crack. 10 seconds of silence that felt like 10 years. Then he smiled. Not the smile from the news photos, something else, something almost surprised. You're American, he said in perfect, unaccented English. And you're Korean. Are we going to keep stating obvious facts, or can I get you some food?
Behind him, his bodyguards tensed, hands moved inside jackets toward weapons. Nobody spoke to Kang Min-jun like that. Nobody lived to tell about it. But Kang Min-jun held up one finger. His men froze like statues. "Coffee," he said, "black, and your story." "Coffee's $3.50. My story costs extra." He reached into his jacket. Russo's heart stopped. But what he pulled out wasn't a gun. It was a wallet, Italian leather, probably worth more than her entire year's salary. He placed a 50,000 won note on the counter, about $45. "Your story," he repeated. Russo looked at the money, at this dangerous man, at the rain still falling outside, at her life that had become nothing but an endless loop of serving, surviving, sending money, sleeping 3 hours, repeat. She made a choice. She poured his coffee, set it down, sat on the stool across from him. "Short version or long version?" she asked. He pulled out more bills, placed 500,000 won on the counter, almost $500, more than 2 weeks of wages. "Long version," he said. "I have time." This is the moment, right here. This is where Russo Johnson's old life ended and something else began. She could have refused, should have thrown the money back and told him to leave, should have recognized the danger sitting across from her in an expensive suit.
But desperation makes you reckless, loneliness makes you foolish, and Russo was drowning in both. She took the money, slowly, like it might burn her fingers, and then she did something she hadn't done in 23 months. She talked about herself, really talked. She told him about Atlanta, about teaching teenagers who didn't care, about the suffocating weight of everyone's expectations, about boarding a plane to Busan and feeling free for the first time in her life. She told him about her mother's stroke, about the medical bills that kept climbing, about working 16-hour days and still never having enough, about the loneliness of being invisible in a city of millions. She told him the truth, the whole ugly, desperate human truth. And here's the thing that neither of them expected. He listened. Not the way powerful men usually listen to women they think are beneath them. Really listened, like her words mattered, like she mattered. Then he started talking too, about growing up in a family where everything was performance, where showing weakness meant death, where his father groomed him from age 7 to take over an empire built on violence and fear. About his older brother who tried to escape, who wanted to be a musician, who died when his car exploded on the Han River Bridge, ruled an accident. Everyone knew better. No one said a word. About the crushing loneliness of being surrounded by people who only saw him as a tool, a weapon, a means to an end. "They make you into a monster," he said quietly, staring into his coffee cup. "Slowly, carefully, one compromise at a time, until one day you look in the mirror and the monster is all that's left." "Then stop being a monster," Russo said. He looked up. "It's not that simple." "It's exactly that simple. Not easy, but simple. You don't understand the world I live in. I don't, but I understand being trapped. I understand waking up every day in a life you never chose and seeing no way out. And I understand that the only person who can free you is you." He laughed, actually laughed. His bodyguards looked shocked. "You sound like a teacher," he said. "Reformed teacher. I gave up on saving people. Yet here you are, trying to save me." "I'm not trying to save you. I'm telling you the truth. What you do with it is your problem." They sat in silence. Rain drummed on the roof. The city moved around them, oblivious. Then Min-jun asked the question that would change everything. "What would you do if money wasn't a problem, if you could have anything?" Russo didn't hesitate. "Buy my mother a house with a garden. She always wanted a garden. And open a real restaurant, not a diner, a place where people feel seen, where the food is good and nobody is invisible, where everyone belongs."
That's it? That's everything. He studied her for a long moment, then he stood. I have to go, but I'll be back tomorrow, same time. Why? Because in 3 hours, you're the first person who's looked at me and seen a human being instead of a weapon or a wallet. And I want to experience that again. He walked to the door. His men moved with him like shadows. At the threshold, he turned back. The money on the counter, keep it, not as payment, as a gift from one prisoner to another. Then he was gone. Russo sat alone in the empty diner, stared at the money, at the cup he'd left behind, still half full. She should have thrown the money away, should have never wanted to see him again. Instead, the next night at 11:47 p.m., she made a fresh pot of coffee and waited.
His advisors were confused. His father was furious. His enemies thought he'd gone soft. But Min-jun didn't care. For the first time in his life, he was making decisions based on who he wanted to be, not who he was expected to be. And Russo? Russo started dreaming again, started imagining a future beyond just survival, started believing that maybe, just maybe, she deserved something more. The attraction between them was electric, undeniable. Every accidental touch lasted too long. Every glance held unspoken words. The air between them hummed with everything they weren't saying. But they never crossed the line, never kissed, never made promises they couldn't keep. Because they both knew the truth. What they had was fragile, built in secret, in darkness, in stolen moments. Bringing it into daylight would shatter it. Mrs. Kang noticed, of course. The wealthy, dangerous man who came every night, who left $1,000 tips, who looked at Russo like she was the only person in the world. "He will hurt you," Mrs. Kang warned in broken English. "Men like that always hurt women like us." "I know," Russo said. But she didn't stop making coffee, and he didn't stop coming. On day 63, December 15th, Min-jun arrived with something different in his expression. Purpose, decision. "I need to tell you something," he said. Russo poured coffee, hands suddenly shaking. "Okay? I'm changing my life, really changing it. I'm taking all my legal businesses, the restaurants, the real estate, the import-export companies, and separating them from the family operation. I'm going legitimate." "Why?" "Because you asked me who I wanted to be, and I decided. I want to be someone you could be proud of, someone who deserves to sit across from you and not carry the weight of 1,000 sins." Russo's throat tightened. "Min-jun, I'm not done. I want you to help me. Come work for me, not as a waitress, as a partner. Help me build something good, something clean, something worth having." "That's crazy." "Maybe, but I'm serious. I'll pay off your mother's medical debt, buy her that house with the garden, give you the resources to eventually open your own restaurant. And in return, you help me become the man you see when you look at me." Russo stared at him. This was insane, reckless, probably the worst decision she could make. "I have conditions," she said. "Name them." "My mother gets the best care available. You pay off everything. She never worries about money again." "Done." "I don't do anything illegal, ever. If you're meeting with criminals, I'm not there. If you're making dirty deals, I'm not involved. I only work on the legitimate businesses." "Agreed." "And if you slide back, if I see the monster taking over again, I walk away. No second chances." He held out his hand. "Deal." She looked at his hand, at his face, at the life he was offering. She shook his hand. "When do I start?" "Tomorrow. But tonight? Tonight, can I take you to dinner? A real dinner. Not as boss and employee, as whatever this is between us." Russo smiled, the first real smile in months. "I'd like that."
3 of Min-jun's men were dead, 15 wounded, millions in product destroyed. And according to the survivors, the attack had been too precise, too perfect. The Sato team knew exactly where to hit, when to hit, and how to bypass every security measure. Someone on the inside had betrayed them. Russo was with Min-jun when he got the call. They'd been having dinner at his penthouse, planning a trip to Atlanta to visit her mother. She watched his face change, watched the man she loved disappear, and the monster emerge. "Find them," he told his security chief, voice colder than ice. "Find out who betrayed us. Bring them to me, alive." "Min-jun," Russo said softly, "don't do something you'll regret." He looked at her. For a second, she saw the man she knew, then the mask came down. "This doesn't concern you. Go home." "It concerns me if you're about to hurt someone." "3 of my people are dead, Russo. This is my world, not yours. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You're scared and angry, and you're about to make a decision that destroys everything we've built." "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I? You want to torture whoever betrayed you. You want revenge. You want to be the monster again because it's easier than being vulnerable." The room went silent. His men stared. Nobody spoke to Kang Min-jun like that. But Russo wasn't finished. "You told me you were changing. You promised me you were different. Was that a lie?" "It's not that simple." "It's exactly that simple. Someone betrayed you, find them, turn them over to the police, press charges, do it the right way, or admit that everything you've been telling me was bullshit." His jaw tightened. "The right way means investigations, trials, everything about my operation exposed." "Then let it be exposed. You've been trying to go legitimate anyway. This is your chance. Burn down the old empire and build something clean from the ashes." "That's insane. So is falling in love with your waitress, but you did it anyway." Silence, thick and dangerous. Finally, Min-jun spoke. "Give me 24 hours. Let me find out who did this. Then we'll talk about the right way. Promise me, no torture, no murder, no monster." "I promise." He kissed her forehead. "Go home, get some sleep. I'll call you tomorrow." Russo left, but she had a bad feeling, a feeling that she'd just made a terrible mistake trusting him. She was right. 24 hours later, Russo got a call from a number she didn't recognize. "Miss Johnson, this is Detective Park from the Busan Metropolitan Police. We need you to come to the station. It's about Kang Min-jun." Her blood went cold. "What happened? Is he hurt?" "No, ma'am. He's here. He turned himself in. He's confessing to multiple crimes, and he's named you as a witness." The world tilted. When Russo arrived at the police station, she found Min-jun in an interrogation room. He looked exhausted but calm, at peace almost. "What did you do?" she asked. "What you told me to do. The right thing." "I don't understand." He smiled sadly. "I found the traitor. 3 traitors, actually. My head of security, my finance officer, and someone else. Someone we both know." He slid a folder across the table. Russo opened it, froze. Inside were surveillance photos, phone records, financial statements, all pointing to one person, Mrs. Kang. "No," Russo whispered. "I'm sorry, but it's true. Mrs. Kang has been working with the Sato family for over a year. She was planted in that neighborhood specifically to watch for opportunities, to find leverage. When you started working at the diner, when I started visiting, she reported everything. She helped engineer the warehouse attack. She was preparing something bigger, something that would have gotten you killed." Russo couldn't breathe. "She was like a grandmother to me." "I know, and I'm sorry, but I have proof. It's all there." Russo flipped through the folder. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. "I've given all of this to the police, along with evidence of my own crimes, money laundering, bribery, association with known criminals. I'm cooperating fully, testifying against my father, my former associates, everyone." You'll go to prison. For a while, yes, but I'll be free, really free, for the first time in my life. And when I get out, I can be the man you deserve. Clean, legitimate, not haunted by what I've done. Tears streamed down Russo's face. You did this for me? I did it for us, for the life we could have, for the man I want to be. He reached across the table, took her hand. I love you, Russo Johnson, and I'm going to prove it by being brave enough to face the consequences of who I've been, so I can become who I want to be. But this confession wasn't the whole truth. What Min-jun discovered about Mrs. Kang was just the beginning. The real betrayal, the one that would destroy everything, was still hidden, and it was closer than either of them could imagine. Don't go anywhere, and don't forget to click the like button. 1 week later, Russo visited Min-jun in jail. He'd been formally charged with 17 counts, including money laundering, racketeering, and conspiracy. His father had disowned him. Half the country thought he was a traitor. The other half thought he was a hero. His trial was set for 3 months away. If convicted on all counts, he's looking at 15 to 20 years. But he seemed lighter, like he'd put something heavy down. "How's your mother?" he asked through the phone. "Good, better. She's asking about you. Wants to know if your handsome Korean boyfriend is okay." Russo smiled, despite everything. "I told her you're currently in jail for being part of the Korean Mafia. She thinks I'm joking." He laughed. "Please don't correct her." "How are you holding up?" "Honestly, better than I've been in years. It's strange. I'm in jail, facing prison time, and I feel freer than I ever did running an empire." "Min-jun, about Mrs. Kang, I'm sorry I didn't see it. I should have." "There's nothing you could have done. She fooled everyone. She was a professional." Russo hesitated. "Have you talked to her since the arrest?" Something flickered in his expression. "No. Why?" "I don't know. Something doesn't feel right. The evidence against her was so perfect. Too perfect. Like it was planted." "Russo, I had 3 different investigators verify everything. It's real." "I know, but I keep thinking about something she said to me once about how her son died. You said it was a car accident 5 years ago, right?" "That's what she told everyone." "What if it wasn't? What if there's more to this?" Min-jun was quiet for a long moment. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we ask her directly. Let me talk to her." "Absolutely not. She's dangerous." "She's in police custody. What's she going to do?" "Russo, please, something doesn't add up here. And if we're going to burn down your whole life based on this evidence, I need to be sure it's the truth. All of it." The detective gave Russo 15 minutes. Mrs. Kang looked up when Russo entered. No shame, no apology, just tired. "You shouldn't have come," Min-jun said in Korean. "I know you understand English, so let's drop the act. I need to know the truth, all of it. Not the version the police have, not the version Min-jun thinks he knows, the real truth." Mrs. Kang smiled sadly. "You think you want the truth. You don't. Try me." For a long moment, the old woman just stared. Then she started talking. "My son didn't die in a car accident. He was murdered by the Kang family, by Min-jun's father specifically. My son worked for them. He found evidence of human trafficking, young women being brought from Southeast Asia and sold. He was going to go to the police." She took a shaky breath. "Kang's father found out, had him killed, made it look like an accident. I knew, but I couldn't prove it, and I had no power, no money, no way to fight back." "So you what? Spent 5 years plotting revenge?" "I spent 5 years surviving, and then Park Soo-jin approached me, told me she had a plan to bring down the Kang family. She needed someone on the inside, someone with access, someone expendable." "You used her." "We used each other. She wanted power, I wanted justice. But then you showed up, and everything changed." Russo leaned forward. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Kang looked directly at her. "You weren't part of the plan, Russo. You were an accident, a beautiful, innocent accident. When you started working at the diner, I saw how alone you were, how desperate, and I felt guilty. For the first time in 5 years, I felt something other than rage." "So you what? Decided to be kind to me?" "I decided to protect you. When Min-jun started coming to the diner, Park Soo-jin wanted me to push you together, to use you as leverage. But I tried to warn you. I tried to get you to quit, to leave before you got hurt. And when I didn't listen? When you didn't listen, I made a choice. I decided to expose the Kang family's crimes, yes, but I also decided to make sure the evidence pointed away from you, to protect you from being seen as an accomplice." Russo's head was spinning. "You're saying you betrayed the Kang family to save me?" "I'm saying I tried to save both of us, but Park Soo-jin had other plans. She's the one who orchestrated the warehouse attack. She's the one who made sure it looked like I was working with the Sato family. She's setting up everyone, me, you, Min-jun, to take the fall while she consolidates power." "That's insane." "Is it? Think about it. Who benefits from Min-jun going to prison? Who takes over his legitimate business holdings? Who's been quietly buying up his assets through shell companies?" Russo's blood ran cold. She pulled out her phone, opened the files Min-jun had sent her about the business transfers. There, hidden in layers of corporate structures, Park Soo-jin's name. "Oh God," Russo whispered. Mrs. Kang nodded. "She played all of us, and the evidence Min-jun gave to the police, it's real. I did those things, but I did them because she threatened to kill you if I didn't. I have the recordings, I have proof, but nobody asked me for my side until now." "Why didn't you tell the police?" "Because I'm an old Korean woman with a criminal record. Who's going to believe me over Park Soo-jin, the respectable CEO? I needed someone who could fight back, someone Min-jun would listen to." "Me? You?" Russo stood up, her mind racing. "I need those recordings, all of them, everything you have. They're hidden in the diner, behind the cash register. There's a loose panel. Everything's there, recordings, documents, proof that Park Soo-jin has been running this whole operation. If this is true, if she really orchestrated everything, Min-jun is walking into a trap. She's going to use his confession to take over everything. Then you need to stop her, before the trial, before it's too late." Russo broke into the diner at 2 a.m., the same diner where this whole story began, where she'd poured that first cup of coffee. She found the hidden panel exactly where Mrs. Kang said it would be. Inside, 3 USB drives, dozens of documents, recordings of phone calls between Park Soo-jin and the Sato family, financial records showing the shell companies, evidence that Park Soo-jin had orchestrated the warehouse attack. And one more thing, a recording that made Russo's blood run cold. Park Soo-jin on the phone with someone. "Make sure the evidence against Mrs. Kang is airtight, and make sure Russo Johnson's name appears nowhere. I need her clean. When this is over, when Min-jun is in prison, I'm going to offer her a position. She's talented, she could be useful, and if she refuses, well, accidents happen." Russo listened to that recording 3 times. Then she called Min-jun's lawyer. "I have evidence that changes everything, but I need you to do something for me. I need you to get Min-jun to withdraw his confession, now, before the arraignment." 3 days later, the preliminary hearing began. The prosecutor stood up to accept Min-jun's guilty plea on 17 charges, but Min-jun's lawyer stood up first.
Your Honor, my client would like to withdraw his confession. We have new evidence that suggests he was manipulated into confessing to crimes he didn't commit.
and we have evidence implicating another party in the actual criminal conspiracy." The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel. "Counselor, this is highly irregular. We have recordings, Your Honor, financial documents, testimony from multiple witnesses, all pointing to a conspiracy to frame my client and seize his assets. We request an immediate investigation." The prosecutor looked furious. "This is absurd. Mr. Kang has already confessed." "A confession obtained under false pretenses," the lawyer said, "by a woman who stands to gain millions if my client is convicted. Park Soo-jin." Every head in the courtroom turned to Park Soo-jin. She sat frozen, calculating. Then she did the worst thing she could do. She ran. She bolted for the door. Security moved to stop her. Chaos erupted. In the confusion, Russo pushed through the crowd, got to the defendant's table, met Min-jun's eyes through the crowd. He looked shocked, confused, grateful. "Trust me," Russo mouthed. He nodded. The investigation took 3 months. When the dust settled, Park Soo-jin was arrested on 43 counts, including fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, and racketeering. The evidence against her was overwhelming, irrefutable. Mrs. Kang was offered a deal: testify against Park Soo-jin in exchange for a reduced sentence. She took it. And Min-jun? 7 charges stuck. The ones he'd actually committed, the ones he'd done before meeting Russo. Money laundering, bribery, association with known criminals. He pled guilty to all of them. The judge, recognizing his cooperation and his genuine attempt to reform, sentenced him to 3 years. With good behavior, he'd be out in 18 months. It could have been 20 years. It could have been life. Instead, it was a chance at redemption. 18 months later, Diane Johnson tends her garden in Atlanta. She walks without help, speaks clearly, laughs often. The stroke is a memory, not a prison. Her daughter calls every Sunday, tells her about the restaurant business she's building in Busan, about the 300 people she employs, about the $47 million in assets she now controls. Diane doesn't fully understand how her daughter went from barely surviving as a waitress to running a hospitality empire. She doesn't need to. She's just proud. But she does ask every single week, "How's that handsome Korean boy of yours, the one from jail?" And every week, Russo gives the same answer. "He's good, Mom. He's doing good." Busan, 6 a.m. A coffee shop that didn't exist a year ago. It's in the same neighborhood as the old diner, not far from where this story began, but everything else is different. The owner arrives early, unlocks the door, starts the coffee brewing. His name is Kang Min-jun. He's 34 years old. He served 18 months in prison for financial crimes. He was released 3 weeks ago. He owns this coffee shop, just this one. No empire, no bodyguards, no power. Just coffee and a chance to start over. The door opens, early customer. He looks up, smiles. It's Russo. She's wearing a business suit. She has a meeting in an hour with investors. She's exhausted from working 18-hour days building her empire. But she's here at 6 a.m., like she has been every morning since he opened this shop 2 weeks ago. "The usual?" he asks. "Always." He pours her coffee, black, 1 sugar, exactly how she likes it. She sits at the counter, same spot she used to stand when she was the one serving. "How's business?" she asks. "Slow, but growing. I had 12 customers yesterday." "That's 3 more than Monday." "Progress?" "Absolutely." They drink coffee in comfortable silence. Outside, Busan wakes up, the city that brought them together and tore them apart, and brought them together again. "Russo?" he says. "Yeah?" "I have a proposal." "Another one? You're always proposing things." "Serious business this time. I want to invest in your coffee shop, not to take over, just to help it grow. You keep full control. I just want to be part of it. Why? Because this is where it started. This neighborhood, a small shop, coffee. And I want to remember that. I want to always have a place where I'm not the boss of an empire, where I'm just Russo, drinking coffee, being human. He reaches across the counter, takes her hand. I like that. Good. Also, my mother wants to meet you in person. She's flying to Busan next month. Terrifying. Completely. But she's already decided she likes you. She told me if I don't marry you, she will. Your mother is 68 years old and still has better game than both of us combined. They laugh. Real laughter, the kind that comes from surviving hell together and coming out the other side. Russo, he says, yeah? I thank you for believing I could change, for not giving up on me, for seeing the human instead of the monster. Thank you for proving I was right. This is a true story. Some names have been changed, some details have been altered, but the core is real. A waitress who couldn't afford to fix her heater became a CEO worth $47 million. A Mafia heir who'd never known peace found redemption in a prison cell and freedom in a coffee shop. And two lonely people who should never have met changed each other's lives forever. Russo's restaurant empire now employs over 500 people. She's opened 14 locations across Korea and Japan. She's known for paying above market wages and creating opportunities for immigrants and people society overlooks. Min-jun served his full sentence. He's been out of prison for 3 weeks. He owns one coffee shop, makes enough to pay rent and buy groceries, and he's never been happier. They're still together, still figuring it out, still learning to build a life from the broken pieces of their pasts. They don't have a fairy tale ending. They have something better. They have the truth. Messy, complicated, real, beautiful truth. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's everything. This inspired by true events. Russo's restaurants have donated over $2 million to immigrant support organizations. The original diner was purchased by an anonymous buyer and converted into a community center providing free meals and job training. Min-jun's coffee shop donates 10% of profits to organizations helping formerly incarcerated people reintegrate into society. Some love stories don't save anyone. They just show you who you could be. That's better than saving. That's transformation. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and see you in the next video.